It's 40,000 years ago. You're standing on a slope of dry grass, and somewhere ahead of you, the herd is moving. You know it's there. You can hear it. The low rumble, the hooves, the snort of something heavy shifting its weight. Everyone around you has already crouched, already pointed, already started counting. And you're squinting at a smear of brown that could be 100 animals or a single rock. You can't see it, and the whole group knows you can't. So what happens to you now? Here's a question nobody puts in the survival documentaries. In a world with no glasses, no eye doctor, no laser surgery for another 40,000 years, what actually happened to the person whose eyes just didn't work? Did they get left behind? Did they die young and alone? Or is the truth stranger, and honestly a lot warmer, than any of that? Because the first surprise is this. Bad eyesight back then was not the thing you think it was. And the person with the biggest eye problem in human history might just be you. Let's kill the myth first. You've got a picture in your head. Noble ancestor, eagle-eyed, spotting a rabbit from half a mile off, never once needing a squint. And the flip side of that picture, anybody born with fuzzy vision got picked off in a week. Both halves are wrong. Start with the eagle eyes. Yes, foragers see better at distance than we do, on average, but not because they were superhuman. Because they weren't us. Take nearsightedness, the thing where far-away stuff goes blurry and close-up stays sharp. In the modern United States, around 40% of people have it. In careful studies of hunter-gatherer groups living today, it runs far lower. In one detailed look at the Hadza in Tanzania, it came out somewhere around 5 to 10% in younger adults. Low. But not zero. So sit with that gap for a second. Roughly 4 in 10 of you versus maybe 1 in 10 of them. And the difference isn't better ancestral eyeballs. It's your childhood. Here's the mechanism nobody explains. An eye that spends its growing years locked onto close things, indoors, under a roof, tends to grow slightly too long. And a too long eye is a nearsighted eye. Reading, homework, screens, walls instead of horizons. We know this because when groups that traditionally spent all day outdoors shifted to school desks and indoor work, nearsightedness climbed fast, sometimes within a single generation. The kids got the classrooms, and the classrooms gave them the blur, which means the defect isn't ancient at all. It's practically brand new. And you are standing in the middle of the experiment. Okay, this is where it gets weird. Because bad eyesight isn't one thing, it's at least 2, and they behave completely differently in a world without lenses. The first kind is being born nearsighted. Far things blur, near things stay crisp. Rare back then, like we said. If you had it from childhood, and your group would have clocked it early. You'd be the kid who never spots the birds, the one who walks up too close to everything, every time. The second kind is the one nobody escapes. Around 40, give or take, the lens inside your eye starts to stiffen. Close-up work drifts out of focus. Threading, picking, the fine detail right in front of your face, all of it goes soft. There's a name for it, presbyopia, which is a fancy word for aging eyes. And here's the part that should stop you cold. It happens to everyone. Every human who has ever lived long enough has hit that exact wall. The sharpest-eyed hunter in the whole valley at 45 cannot see the tip of the needle he's holding. So think about when we finally invented a fix. Glasses show up around the 1280s in Italy, hundreds of thousands of years of humans, and the cure arrives roughly 700 years ago. That's it. That's the whole run of vision correction. And you want to know the very first thing glasses were built for? Not hunters, not the young, old monks who wanted to keep reading. The first spectacles were basically reading glasses. The kind you grab off a spinning rack at the pharmacy today for the price of a sandwich. We solved aging eyes first, because that was the one problem absolutely everyone eventually had. Which raises a small, strange question. Before glasses, who did the fine work once the elders' eyes gave out? Probably the young and the sharp in the best light of the day. The tiny, careful crafts, the needle, the bead, the delicate edge, likely drifted toward whoever could still see them, and away from whoever couldn't. Nobody wrote that rule down. The eyes wrote it for them. And the elders themselves weren't helpless about it. Watch anyone over 40 today try to read a label without their glasses. The arm shoots out, the phone drifts back to full stretch. That move is ancient. Push the work far enough away, and a stiff old lens can just about cope. Prehistoric elders did the exact same thing, in the exact same pose, chasing the one patch of bright daylight where blurry things turn briefly readable. The arm's-length squint might be the oldest vision hack we own. But here's something the survival stories always leave out. There was one kind of bad eyesight that every single ancient human shared, every day of their lives. The dark. We are a daytime animal. Our night vision is genuinely mediocre. Worse than the cat, worse than the owl, worse than half the things that wanted to eat us. For a few hours after sunset, the sharpest-eyed hunter and the blindest elder were suddenly on almost even ground. Both of them mostly blind. Both of them listening instead of looking. Every night, the whole species got downgraded to the same weak setting. And this is where a small orange miracle comes in. Fire didn't just cook food and scare off predators, it handed back a slice of the day. A fire the size of a dinner plate turns a blind night into a small circle you can actually see. Faces, hands, the edge of the shelter. So the first tool humans ever built to fix bad eyesight wasn't a lens, it was a campfire. Roughly 1 million years before anyone ground a piece of glass, we were already buying back our vision one flame at a time. And if you think we ever grew out of that, check your own reflex. The second a room goes black, your hand is already moving. The switch, the lamp, the flashlight on your phone, that little rectangle of light you reach for in a dark parking lot is a direct descendant of the dinner plate fire. Same fear, same fix, 10,000 generations apart. Here's the part nobody puts in the textbooks, the uncomfortable one. For most of human history, your eyes weren't a convenience. They were infrastructure. Think about what a forager's day actually runs on. Spotting a predator before it spots you. Reading a track in the dirt, which way, how fresh, how big. Catching the flick of an ear in tall grass at 200 meters. Watching the sky, the horizon, the tree line for weather and movement. The entire business of staying alive is a distance vision business. Your eyes are the radar, the early warning system, and the grocery store all at once. So if you're the one who genuinely can't see far, this is not a minor inconvenience. Let's be honest about that. You're worse at the single most valuable skill on the landscape. You can't take point on a hunt. You might not see the thing in the grass until it's already decided what to do about you. In a group living close to the edge, that matters, and pretending it didn't would be its own kind of lie. Although, and this softens it a little, distance vision was never the whole story of a good tracker. Reading the ground is skill and memory as much as raw sharpness. An experienced hunter with slightly weaker eyes can still outread a young one with perfect vision because he knows what he's looking at. Expertise covers for a lot, just not for everything. And this is where you'd expect the grim documentary music to start. The cold logic of survival. Weak eyes, weak link, gone by the first hard winter. That's the story we've been sold about the ancient world. Nature read in tooth and claw, no room for anyone who couldn't pull their weight. Except that's not what the evidence shows. Not even close. Stay with me, this is the good part. Because the fix for bad eyes, 40,000 years before the first lens, wasn't a tool. It was other people. A forager band isn't a pile of identical hunters. It's a division of labor, dozens of different jobs, and only some of them need you to see the far ridge. The person who can't read the horizon can still read a face across the fire. They can tend the hearth and keep it alive through the night. And a fire that dies is a catastrophe. So that's not busy work. That's the difference between warm and dead. They can crack nuts, twist cordage, scrape hides, mind the children, hold the camp together while the sharp-eyed ones range out for the day. And close work? Close work is exactly where nearsighted eyes shine. Blurry far away very often means beautifully crisp up close. So the person who can't see the herd might be the best in the entire group at the delicate stuff. Finishing a blade, mending a net, the tiny fiddly jobs everyone else fumbles. Their weakness on the ridge is a strength at the hearth. The group doesn't need everyone to be good at everything. It needs everyone to be good at something. And in a band of 30 people, the one pair of hands that can still do the impossibly small work is not a charity case. That person is the toolmaker, the repairer, the one everybody quietly needs when a blade snaps or a net tears the night before a hunt. In our world, we'd hand them a job title and a paycheck. In theirs, they got something rarer, a role nobody else in camp could fill. Picture one real day of it. The band splits at dawn. The far-sighted ones climb toward the ridgeline. You stay low, by the water, with 2 elders and 4 kids and a fire you will not let go out. By dusk, you've stripped and softened 3 hides, kept every child breathing, and reset a snare with a knot nobody else in camp can tie. You never once saw the horizon. You were never once useless. You've heard the phrase, "it takes a village." We say it about raising kids, usually with a small eye roll. Like it's a line off a greeting card. It isn't. It's a flat description of the survival machine. A village is a body with more eyes than any one person owns, and if 2 of those eyes don't work, there are 40 others that do. That's the correction. That's the lens, each other. But what about the hardest cases? Not blurry, actually blind. It happened. Cataracts fogged the eyes of the old. An injury, an infection, a fever in childhood. Someone who couldn't see at all, in a world with absolutely nothing to fix it. Surely that's where the kindness finally runs out. Here's the thing. We have bones that say otherwise, and they are very, very old. There's a man they found in a cave called Shanidar in what's now northern Iraq. He lived something like 45,000 years ago, a Neanderthal, one of our closest cousins. When they studied his skeleton, they found a body that had been through nearly everything. A withered arm, a missing hand, damage to the side of his skull that likely left him blind in one eye, old injuries, all healed over, which means he did not die when he got them. He lived, for years, with a group around him the entire time. Let that sit for a second. Someone made sure he ate. Someone brought him along when the camp packed and moved. A person who could not have survived one season on his own was carried by people who decided again and again that he was worth carrying. Before farming, before writing, before a single word we'd recognize was ever spoken out loud. We don't get to hear their reasons. We just get the bones. And the bones say, plainly, he stayed with us. Now, honesty, because accuracy is the entire point of this channel. We can't climb inside their heads. Maybe some groups weren't kind. Maybe some people were left behind, and their bones just tell a shorter story we'll never dig up. The ancient world was not a paradise, and we're not going to pretend it was. But the oldest, hardest evidence we can pull out of the ground does not show a species that threw away the ones who couldn't see. Over and over, it shows the opposite. So what actually happened to you? The one at the very top of this, squinting at a brown smear that might be a herd? Probably this. You didn't take point on the hunt. You learned the jobs your eyes could do, and you got very, very good at them. Maybe you were the one who kept the fire. Maybe you wove the strongest cord in camp, or knew every plant within a day's walk by smell and touch as much as by sight. You lived a life that was narrower in exactly one direction and completely full in every other. And nobody in your band walked around thinking of you as broken. Because the word broken needs a world with a standard, a world where everyone's expected to read the eye chart, pass the test, hit the mark. Your ancestors didn't have the chart. They just had you and the long list of things you could do. And the real twist, the one that should genuinely move something around in your head, is this. Your nearsightedness, if you've got it, would have been almost invisible back then. Not because the world was gentler, because the world didn't demand the one thing your eyes are bad at and constantly demanded the very thing that made them that way. We built an entire civilization out of close work. Reading, screens, fine focus, 4 walls, and a ceiling. And in building it, we manufactured the exact eye problem our ancestors almost never had. The blur isn't a flaw handed down from some caveman. It's a souvenir from the modern world. Let that sit for one more second. For 300,000 years, our ancestors lived with no way on Earth to fix a failing eye. And instead of a fix, they built something better. They built a group where a body that couldn't do one thing got folded into a whole that could do everything. Where the person who couldn't see the ridge was still fed, still carried, still needed. They didn't have lenses. They had each other. And it turns out that's a kind of vision, too. We inherited both halves of those people. The eyes that dim on schedule, the same wall at 40 they hit, waiting for every one of us. And the instinct, older than language, pressed into a skeleton in a cave to keep the ones who can't keep themselves. You've probably done a small version of it this week without even noticing. Held a door, read a menu out loud for someone, steered a friend around a step they didn't see coming. 300,000 years later, you're still doing it. Funny how that works. So here's my question for you. If you'd been the one who couldn't see the herd, what job would you have earned around that fire? Tell me in the comments.